Welcome back to Let's Make a Game, a channel about making computer role-playing games using the free program Twine and the Sugarcube format for Twine. I recently got a comment on one of my videos from user Kevin Cavendish 9313, and Kevin asked me if I could make and demonstrate a health bar. Specifically, Kevin wants one where um, ratings from 0 to 25% are red, 25 to 50 are orange, 50 to 75 is yellow, and greater than 75% is green. So thank you for the suggestion, Kevin. I've done that, and that's what this video is about. So let's look at what I've done first. I've done it in two different ways. First, I've done one single bar, and then the color changes depending on which range the health that it's displaying is in. And the other way I've done it is with multicolored bars. So in the multicolored bar, the first 25% is always red, and then the next 25% is orange, and then yellow, and then green. They're virtually the same in the way that they're coded, and I'll demonstrate the differences when we get to that. But and then there's a window down the bottom where you can enter the whatever you want to display, and it'll display that. And as always, this is part of the files that are available on itch.io in the link in the description. So normally I would now turn to how it was coded, but in this particular video there's an extra step, which is looking at how I set up the graphics, because this isn't done just with built-in commands. I had to actually find some images to do this with. So I tried a place that I've been to a few times before, opengameart.org. This is a place where people upload pictures and also sounds, both music and sound effects, which they've given permission for people to use in games. And there's different degrees of permission about whether you have to credit them or whether they can be used in commercial projects or only in non-commercial ones. But you have to check each resource as you come to it. This particular resource that I found is actually completely public domain, so there was no restrictions at all. The way I found it was very simple. It has a search bar. I searched for health bar, and the first result that I got was fine, and so I downloaded that. But still, we're not up to coding, because now we have to look at how I didn't just use that bar as it was. I had to actually manipulate it in Photoshop because I wanted something slightly different to what it was doing. So, well, not exactly Photoshop. I use GIMP, which is a free sort of clone of Photoshop. So what I'm about to do, I think that GIMP is pretty close to Photoshop, so what I'm about to do should be basically the same as what you would do if you are using Photoshop, but I actually haven't used a recent version of Photoshop, so I can't confirm that. So once we downloaded, actually I won't show you that way, there's an easy way to show you. Once I downloaded the graphics from OpenGameArt, we got what we see here, a series of 16 versions of the same, basically the same graphic. It's just sort of more or less filled in. So there's the sort of empty one, and then there's one where it's partly filled in, and then there's one with a bit more filled in, and so on until we get the one that's full. But I didn't want just 16 sort of possible gradations. I wanted every possibility from 1 to, or actually from 0 to 100 to be different. So I had to change it slightly. So I'll show you what I did in, I'll show you what I did in GIMP. So I loaded up most full of the bars. First, I'll show you what I should have done. This isn't what I did, but this is what would have worked best. What I should have done was go on Image and then Crop to Content. And what that does is, if there is a blank, if there's sort of a transparent bit around it, as there is in this one, it will get rid of that, and it'll just close it up to the bit that has some actual pixels on it. But I didn't do that, so I had to sort of do this by hand. What I wanted to do first was get a graphic to be the right-hand side of the bar. Then the left-hand side of the bar. Then I needed another graphic to be the right-hand side of the bar, and then I needed graphics to be the inner bit of the bar in all of the different colours, as well as transparent. So here's how I did that. First of all, we will zoom in a little, because we need to zoom in to the point where we can see a movement of 1 pixel, because if you muck this up and get them at different heights, it'll look surprisingly noticeable. Now, had I cropped to selection, it would have done that automatically. You know, I wouldn't have had that problem. But anyway, so I picked that bit, making sure that I didn't go into I didn't want any of the sort of display part of the bar. I just wanted the very left-hand frame. And then I went Image, Crop to Selection, and then I exported that as left in the art folder. Then I went to the other side, did exactly the same with the right hand side. So image, crop to selection, and then export. And then all that was left was the bit in the middle. So I found a section. I think I got a bit that was 3 pixels wide. Thus, the thinner it was, or if I'd made it thinner, then the overall picture when it prints would have been thinner, and if I'd made it thicker, the overall picture would have been thicker. I should also say that what I ended up doing was probably a little big. I mean, if you look at that as a health bar, you probably want something slightly smaller than that. And so in a lot of cases, what I would have done first is shrink everything, shrink the whole picture. So I would have gone Image, Scale, and then change it from 122 height to maybe 50 height. That'd be half the size. And then worked from there. But I just made it the size that it is. I left it the size that it was for what I made. So if that size is okay for you, then you don't need to shrink it. And also having, if I had shrunk it, some of it doesn't always sort of can I put this? It doesn't always. Sometimes it goes a bit blurry, and you have to sort of make decisions about which pixels to keep and stuff. So let's say I shrunk it to 50. You'd have to make a decision about this this semi-transparent pixel up here. Doesn't look that great. Are you going to chop that off, or would you fill that in? Would you colour that in black? And of course, the answer to that is that it depends on what size you want and what you want it to look like. But anyway, so going on with what I did with the middle bit, I got a section like this, and we crop to selection. And now we need multiple versions of this because we need one version for each colour. So let's say we start with red. We make red the colour that we're going to use up here. If you don't have red chosen, you can do it up here with the RGB sliders by just going red 100 and green and blue 0. Then I got the bucket fill tool, which is this icon of a bucket, put it over the center bit and made that red. I also got rid of these 2 black lines. I thought they weren't very necessary, so I got rid of those, and then I exported that to, that became red.png, and then I just did that with all of the colors. Oh, sorry, I don't know why I cancelled that. That was right. I did that with all the colors I was going to use. So then we could have exported that as yellow, and then we do the same for orange. And we also need one that's blank or transparent. And the way that I did that was I went with the fuzzy select tool there, the magic wand looking thing, clicked on that so that it outlined the yellow, and then I just went Control X, which is cut, or actually Command X because I'm using a Mac. And there we have a transparent, that's what that checkered pattern of light and dark grey means. It means that bit of the image is transparent. I exported that as blank.png. Now, in some images, not this one, but in some images, you will find that you can't make anything transparent because it isn't set up to do that. So what you would do is you'd go to the layers here and you'd right click and you would add alpha channel. I don't have the option to do that because it already has an alpha channel, but let's say I'd remove that accidentally. If I did the same thing, I select that and then press Control X, it won't make it transparent, it'll just turn it into the background color, and obviously that's not what we want. So I would have to right click, add alpha channel, and then do it that way. So that was all of the graphics prepared. So I'll get out of GIMP, and then we can look at the actual coding. All right, so let's get into the program here. There's two pages in this program, one of which just says set H equals 70. There we go. Set $H equals 70 and go to display. H is just the percentage that you're wanting to display. So normally you wouldn't be setting H equals 70. This would be part of a bigger game where you would set H equals, it might be something like hit points, set H to be the hit points of the current character, something like that. You would have some measure that you're displaying, and that would be where you'd get H. But because this is just a demonstration, we have to invent something that we're going to display, and I chose 70 fairly arbitrarily. So having done that, we then go to, where's my pages? Sorry. Hang on, I've lost it. This is the problem with zooming in everything. There we go. Okay. And also, I forgot to title this. I normally would title this initialize or something, but I left it as untitled passage, so I'm sorry about that. Okay, so there's some text there, but that's pretty straightforward. Now, Twine, or at least the Sugarcube format of Twine, I haven't used the other formats very much, has a problem, and the problem is that when it prints images, it always prints a little gap after the image. And what we're trying to do is this is actually made up of lots and lots of little images. It's 102 images. It's an image of rice.png, then it's an image of all these repetitions of the one image, and then it's left.png. And this is somewhat similar. It's right, then it's green.png, yellow.png, orange.png, red.png, and finally left.png. And we don't want those little gaps that Twine, or that Sugarcube at least puts in, and so we need to sort of trick the program somehow. And the way we do that is, instead of printing the images, normally we would have a command like something like this. Print, and then quote, square bracket, img, art/left dot png, end of quote, and then the two greater thans to close it off. And then we'd go through and we'd keep printing different pictures. But if we do that, we'll get all the gaps. So the way that we avoid the gaps is we have a variable x. I suppose I should have used y really, because that was the next one after z. But anyway, I didn't for whatever reason. I just said set $x equals quote, and then that is the command that says find the picture left.png. You'll find it in the art folder, which is in the same folder as this program. And then img means print that image. So, but we don't command the program to do that. We just set $x equal to that command. And what we're going to do is then go on a for loop from 1 to 100. So for $z equals 1, semicolon, $z is less than or equal to 100, semicolon, $z plus plus, and then there's a /4 down here. We're going to go through that for loop, and we're going to keep adding to x, and then at the end, we add a command to print right, but we add it to x, and then finally we print x all at once. And if we do it that way, Twine won't put in the gaps, and that will allow us to print the thing as we want it to print it, i.e. everything bunched up together. So here's what we do. This is the code for the single color bar, and once I've gone through this, I'll go through the code for the multicolored bar, although the code is virtually the same. So I'll just talk about the differences. So this is the single color bar. So within this for loop, if z is greater than h, so in other words, if this number between 1 and 100 is greater than our sort of imaginary health value, then we're going to add to x the command to print the blank PNG. Otherwise, if we're less than or equal to h, we say else if h is less than 26, then add the command to print red. Otherwise, if h is less than 51, we add orange. Otherwise, if h is less than 76, we add yellow. And if none of those things are true, which means that z is less than or equal to h and h is 76 or more, then we add green. So let's have a look at how this works when h is 70, which is the starting value. So when z is 1, it'll say, is z over h? No, that's not true. Is h less than 26? No. Is h less than 51? No. Okay, is h less than 76? Ah, yes, it is. So that's true. So I should add yellow. I should add the yellow.png to this x string. And then for number 2, exactly the same thing. And in fact, from 1 to 70, it'll add yellow. So it'll add yellow 70 times. And then on the 71st time, it'll say, is z greater than h? Well, actually, yes, it is greater than h now. So now I will add blank.png instead of yellow.png. So if h is 70, it will start with left, then it'll add 70 copies of yellow.png, and then it'll add 30 copies of blank, or at least 30 commands to print that. And then once the for loop is finished, then it'll add right, and then it'll print x. So what we should get is left.png, 70 copies of the yellow graphic, 30 copies of the blank graphic, and a single copy of the right graphic. And if we look at the relevant bit, that is, well, that's 100, but let's get back to 70. That is exactly what we get. We get left.png, hopefully it's going to highlight it. we get left.png, and then we get 30 copies of yellow.png, sorry, 70 copies of yellow.png, then we get 30 copies of blank.png, and then we get a single copy of right.png. So that's the single color bar. There is a slight change for the multicolored bar. The structure is basically the same. The only difference, still starts with X being this command to print left, and we still have the for loop. We still have this if, else if structure. The only difference is this is identical. If Z is over H, then add blank. But where the single color says else if H is under 26, this says else if Z is under 26, then add red. Else if Z is under 51, else if Z is under 76, and else add the green. So what will happen in this case is in pass number 1, it will say, is Z greater than H? Well, no, it's not. Z is 1 and H is 70, so that's not true. Is Z less than 26? Well, yes, that is true. Z is 1. So it will add to X this red command, and in fact, it'll do that 25 times. And then on pass number 26, it'll say, is Z greater than H? No. Is Z less than 26? Well, it's not now. Okay, is Z less than 51? Ah, well, that is true. So then it'll start adding orange, and then it'll add 25 more oranges. And then this, when it gets to the 51st pass, this won't be true either. And so it'll start adding yellows until the 71st pass, where it will say, is Z greater than H? Well, yes, it is, because Z is 71 and H is 70. So then it'll start adding blanks. So in other words, with this version, with the multicolored version, we should expect to get, and the code is the same down the bottom, where we add right.png and then we print X. So with this version, with the multicolored version, when we've changed H to Z for these three, but not for this one, we should get left.png, 25 copies of the red.png, then 25 copies of yellow.png, then 20 copies of, sorry, I'm not sure I said the right thing then. 1 copy of left, 25 copies of red, 25 copies of orange, 20 copies of yellow, and then 30 copies of, and it never gets to green because that's never going to be true, and then 30 copies of blank.png because then Z is over H. And if we look at the screen, that's exactly what we get. 1 copy of left.png, and then 25 reds, 25 yellows, 25 oranges, 20 yellows, 30 blanks, and then 1 right.png. And then the last bit of the code, this isn't sort of relevant to printing the health bar, but the last bit of the code is just a number box command to allow us to enter a new number and display what that would look like. So that's fairly straightforward. It's less than number box, $H in quotes, which is telling it that whatever the player enters here will become the variable $H. $H not in quotes, and that's telling you to make the default number equal to the current variable H. So in other words, if I put 50 there, you can see that in the window it's pre-filled with 50. So it's just saying pre-fill it with whatever the value of H is. I could put a number instead of a variable, or even I could even put an equation or something, but I thought it would be more intuitive to just have that as the default. And then it has quote display, which is telling it where to go. And of course, this is the page display. So what this is saying is there's a box where the player can enter a numeric value. Whatever they enter will be stored in variable $H. It'll be pre-filled with the current value of H. And when they press enter, we should go to the page display. In other words, we should go to the top of this page again and run the program from there. All right, so that is how you do a health bar. I hope that was clear. Any questions that you have, please ask in the comments. And if you have any other things you want me to do, things I haven't done, or things that I have done but you don't feel like I explained them very well, or I did do them but I didn't get into a particular thing that you wanted to do, just put a comment on any video. I will see all the comments, and because this is a small channel, I am usually able to at least answer them. And if you want me to do something specific, probably do them. I'll certainly do them if I'm able to do them. So I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you, and I hope you will tune in next time.